it's truly sad that he lost his life. I was inspired by another YouTube channel where their channel is strictly basically reading the transcripts. And you guys know I love to be behind the camera, so I don't want to take away from what their platform is. So I do want to shout them out. I will post their stuff right here. I cannot remember it off the top of my head what their channel is, but me and my husband watch them faithfully, and I'm a supporter, and I want them to think that I'm trying to jock. I'm just truly inspired by what they are doing, and I thought I want to add some of that on here because I think it's very important that we do give the correct info. You guys know I stress that a lot in my videos because sometimes, you know, we can be wrong when we're looking at information via the internet, but transcripts don't lie. So I want to read just a little bit from part 1 because part 1, I have it right here. Part 1 is about, guys, this is like super duper long. Part 1 is over like 160 pages of a transcript. And that's why I see why a lot of places like they dissect this. So I'm just gonna read a couple pages to get us to about 10 minutes in this video. And I want you guys to let me know if you want me to continue. And I hope that, yeah, I just hope that we can really do this. So I think that I am going to move this over to my computer so that way you guys can read with me, and I'm recording myself at the same time because, all right guys, so I was trying to figure out how to do this. So I'm just gonna like be looking to the side, and of course everything will be on the screen so you guys can read along with me. And I'm gonna say this from the get-go. Yeah, words may be confused a little bit because guess what? I'm Google or the damn internet and I'm not looking up no words. So take it or leave it. Shit. So this is with the grand jury of County of Los Angeles, State of California. It is the people of the state of California versus Eric Ronald Holder Jr. That is the person who has been identified as the shooter for killing Nipsey Hussle. Now, Now, this is the report's transcript of the grand jury, which occurred on May 6, 2019. And this is one of 3 volumes, and this volume, like I said previously, is over 150 pages. So when I see my camera get to about 9 minutes, I'm gonna like cut it off because I don't want to continue if you guys don't like this type of content because this is new, and I thought it would just be just a little special add-on because I really was involved, and I feel like a lot of people were involved when Nipsey Hussle passed away. So yeah, I want to not keep prolonging. So there are many different appearances. John McKinley, he is the Deputy District Attorney of the County of Los Angeles, representing the Office of District Attorney. There is also a Valerie Anil Rocha, probably pronouncing her name wrong. She is a Deputy District Attorney of Los Angeles County and Los Angeles County Grand Jury Advisor, as well as Renee Marie Envico, CSR number 6404, duly appointed and sworn as the official sinographic reporter of the Los Angeles County Grand Jury. Like I said previously, this is volume 1, which consists of 150 pages. Jesus Christ. And this is just the index. I'm pretty sure you guys know what index is, but if you do not know what it is, it's just basically giving you an outline of what is to occur in this document. And if you guys never seen a professional document, it's not all that fancy. But now this is the witnesses. This is all of the individuals who will take a part in this proceeding. Now, not gonna read their names, but you guys can see all of their names as well. And the different pages in the volumes that they will be included. Like for instance, Alejandro, he is in volume 1 on page 25. Now we get down to the exhibits. Now this is different parts of what have occurred in the case, and oftentimes there may be photos, there may be sketches, there may be any different thing that is attached to that specific exhibit. And also it does include the volume. So we're in volume 1, and this is all that has occurred in volume 1, which is a lot if you are looking at this. And I hope I'm not going too fast, but I'm definitely not about to read all that because the court proceeding alone is super duper long. So This occurred in Los Angeles, California, Monday, May 6, 2019 at 9:38 a.m. So at the beginning of the proceeding, there were 24 grand jurors. So I'm just gonna call this person Anel, because I don't want to keep pronouncing her name wrong, because it does sound stupid. So Miss Anel, Madam Foreperson, would you please call the criminal grand jury hearing to order and swear the court reporter, the foreperson. This hearing is now in session. Will the court reporter please raise your right hand? The grand jury reporter, Renee Marie Mbiko, was sworn as follows. The foreperson, do you solemnly swear that you will correctly take in shorthand and correctly transcribe to the best of your ability all of the testimony given by each and every witness testifying in the matter now pending before this grand jury, and that you will keep secret and divulge to no one of any of the proceedings of the grand jury. So help you God. The reporter, I do. The foreperson, thank you so much. Will the secretary please call the roll? Secretary calls the roll. Miss Anel, thank you, Madam Secretary. Please let the record reflect that there are 24 grand juries present. Also present is Deputy District Attorney John McKinley and myself, the grand jury legal advisor. Would the foreperson please read the foreperson's statement? Madam Foreperson, you state with the name of target, the foreperson reading, name of target, Eric Ronald Holder Jr. Target Eric Ronald Holder Jr., Holder, and Witness 1 met in February of 2019. Witness 1, who worked as a home healthcare worker by day and a reacted by night, met Holder during a fair. Over the course of the next month, Holder and Witness 1 spent time socializing together, including having one sexual encounter. During her brief friendship with Holder, Witness 1 became aware that he was a Rolling 60s gang member. Witness 1 also learned that Holder usually carried a black semi-automatic handgun that he said he needed for protection. On Sunday, March 31st, 2019, Witness 1 and Holder drove from Long Beach to Los Angeles to get food and shop. Holder directed Witness 1 to pull into a strip mall at Salson Avenue and Crenshaw Boulevard. Holder told Witness 1 that he was going to get something to eat at a restaurant in the strip mall. As Witness 1 pulled into the parking lot, she saw a man that she recognized as Nipsey Hussle, whose legal name is Emeris Ashkadam Hussle. Wanted to make sure I had that right. Witness 1 got excited and said, "Hey, that's Nipsey Hussle." Holder did not respond. Holder never told Witness 1 that he knew Hussle, nor did Holder give Witness 1 any reason to believe that he expected to see Hussle at that location. Once there, Holder went into the Master Burger restaurant to order food. After spending a few moments inside the restaurant, Holder walked over to a group of 3 men, including Hussle. Holder spent several minutes talking to the men before Witness 1 got out of her car and approached the group to request a picture with Hussle. While Witness number 1 waited to take a picture with Hussle, she heard Holder ask Hussle if he had ever snitched. Hussle calmly waved Holder off as if he did not want to talk to him. Witness number 1 took a selfie photograph with Hussle, then returned to her car. Holder remained talking to Hussle for a few minutes, then walked into the restaurant. Holder left the restaurant with his food order and walked back to Hussle for another brief conversation. Holder then returned to Witness number 1's car. Once inside the car, Holder told Witness number 1 to drive around the corner. Witness number 1 followed Holder's instructions and drove into Crenshaw Boulevard. She then noticed that Holder was holding a black semi-automatic handgun. It was the first time that day that she saw Holder with the gun. Holder started pulling back on the side of the top of the gun and told Witness 1 to drive around the block so he could do a drive-by. Witness number 1 refused. Holder then demanded that Witness number 1 pull into a parking lot and located between Salson Avenue and 58th Place. Holder got out of the car, put on a red shirt, and told Witness number 1 to wait and not move. Holder walked northbound through the alley back towards the strip mall parking lot and slowly approached Hussle's location. When he was within a few minutes of Hussle, Holder displayed a firearm and fired several shots at Hussle and several other people who were sitting and standing within a few feet of Hussle. Hussle, Harry Lathan, and Shermy Venezuela were struck by bullets, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that last name incorrectly. They immediately fell to the ground. Hussle was shot multiple times. Lathan was shot once in his back, and Shermy suffered a graze wound to his back waist area. Hussle died a short time after the shooting, and Lathan was hospitalized for his injuries. Venezuela suffered a superficial injury. Matters to be considered in connection with the above target names. Miss Anil. Target, the foreperson. Target. This hearing concerns whether sufficient evidence will be presented to the criminal grand jury to indict Eric Ronald Holder Jr. for one count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 2 counts of assault with a firearm, and 1 count of felony in possession of a firearm. The proposed indictment charges target Eric Ronald Holder Jr. with murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, 2 counts of attempted murder in the violation of Penal Code Section 664/187A, 2 counts of assault with a firearm in violation of Penal Code Section 245A2, and 1 count of felony in the possession of a firearm in violation of Penal Code Section 29800A1. Tentative witness list. Number 1, Herman Douglas. Number 2, Carrie Lathan. Number 3, Sherman Venezuela. Probably pronouncing that so wrong, but I do apologize. Number 4, Alejandro Jurillo. And number 5, witness number 1. Number 6, Thorson Timmermans. And then they have a code number 37459. Miss Anil. You don't have to read that, just the names. The foreperson, number 7, Frank Zaragoza. Number 8, Scott Tubert. Number 9, Cliff Rose. Number 10, Ryan Sauls. Number 11, George Morales. Number 12, Cedric Washington. Number 13, Michael Ramirez. And number 14, Coroner Representative. Any member of the grand jury who has state of mind in reference in this case or to any parties involved which will prevent him or her from acting impartially and without prejudice to the substantial rights of any of the said parties shall now retire. Miss Anel. And if there are any grand jurors who do not believe that they can be impartial without prejudice, please raise your hand. Madam Foreperson, there is a witness who has indicated that he has not... Sorry, my damn legs, y'all. So, Madam Foreperson, there is a witness who has indicated that he cannot be fair and impartial. So at this time, we're going to ask that all the other jurors please exit the hearing room so that the foreperson conduct a hearing in regards to this witness. It should just be a couple of minutes. And I'm going to ask the Deputy District Attorney to lead the hearing as well. 23 grand juries exit the grand jury hearing room. Ms. Anil, and let the record reflect that 23 grand juries have left the hearing room and Mr. McKinley is leaving the hearing room. Deputy District Attorney McKinley, exit the grand jury hearing room. Ms. Anil, those remaining are the foreperson, myself, and the court reporter and a jury that we identify as jury number 14. So, Madam Foreperson, would you please inquire of the jury as to the reasons why this juror cannot, why he has a state of mind in reference to this case that will prevent him from acting impartially and without prejudice to the substantial rights of any of the parties. The foreperson, just rephrase that. Ms. Anil, just ask the witness to tell you why. The foreperson, jury number 14, can you tell me why you feel that you cannot be impartial in this case? Grand jury number 14, yes, because of previous watching of the media, watching the video what happened, and then also working and living in that area. Sometimes I frequent the restaurant close to that area where the shooting took place, and also that my wife sometimes has to go into that area to a supermarket not far down, just down the street from the incident. The foreperson. So do those factors prevent you from being impartial? And if so, what would be the prejudice there? Grand jury number 14. The prejudice would be I've already formed an opinion on the guilt or innocence of the suspect. the foreperson. So I want to remind you that you are making a decision as to innocence or guilty. The burden of proof is probable cause. Grand jury number 14, correct. The foreperson. So do you believe that you've already formed an opinion of probable cause about the target? Grand jury number 14, correct. The foreperson. And that would prevent you from being impartial to the target. Grand jury number 14, correct. That would make me partial. The foreperson. Okay. Jury number 14. I will ask you to retire and return to the next case because you cannot be impartial towards the target in this particular case. And I'm making that finding that you cannot be impartial and you would be prejudiced against the target. Miss Anil. All right. Thank you, Madam Foreperson. In jury number 14, I'm going to ask that you leave the hearing room and we'll see you for the next case this month. Thank you very much. Jury number 14 is leaving the hearing room, and I am advising him that because he has read the foreperson's statement and he is familiar with this case, he is admonished and advised not to discuss this case with anyone and to uphold the secrecy of the grand jury, particularly as to this case. Thank you, jury number 14. Grand jury number 14, okay. Miss Anel, Madam Foreperson, is he excused? Yes. The foreperson, yes, he is excused. Miss Anil, thank you. Deputy District Attorney McKinley and 23 grand juries entered the grand jury hearing room. Miss Anil, back on the record. Let the record reflect that there are now 23 grand juries presented. Mr. McKinley has re-entered the hearing room, and myself, the legal advisor, I am here as well. Give me a second, Madam Foreperson. There is a pause in the proceedings. Miss Anil, so Madam Foreperson, at this time, do you give Mr. McKinley permission to provide the grand juries with a brief opening statement? So ordered. The foreperson. So ordered. Miss Anil, thank you. Mr. McKinley, as you will recall, since you were just here a couple months ago or a month ago, that you are there near the court reporter. If you would like a podium, we'll bring one out for you. Mr. McKinley, no need. Miss Anil, okay. Mr. McKinley, okay. It's just so funny reading it. Now we get to the opening statement. Mr. McKinley, good morning. My name is John McKinley. I am a Deputy District Attorney for the County of Los Angeles, and I'm pleased to present this case to you this morning and over the next 2 days. This is People versus the target, Eric Holder. This case involves the death of Ermias Joseph Astrodon, known to the world as Nipsey Hussle. Mr. Astrodon lived most of his life in South Los Angeles. He grew up in the area of Slauson and Crenshaw. During his life, he became an associate and then a member of the local street gang in the area called the Rolling 60s. He was a fixture in his later teens and early 20s at businesses near the intersection of Slauson and Crenshaw. His activities started to change during his late teen years and early 20s, away from the street gang activities to music. He became consumed with music and started a career as a rapper and really made a name for himself and a career for himself from the bottom up and from the outside in. He started producing his own music and selling music out of the trunk of his car. I remember those days. He did it for years. He became so popular on this underground circuit that he became sought after by some of the bigger record labels and eventually signed a record deal. And after over 10 years of selling music quite successfully, he had his first album. His first album produced recently, which was nominated for a Grammy Award. He was well known in the area of Slauson and Crenshaw. He is beloved in that area. In fact, has fans all over the world. The target in this case, Mr. Holder, it's also someone who grew up in the area of South Los Angeles. Also became a member of the Rolling 60s gang, which is a Crip gang in South Los Angeles. Was also familiar to people in the area of Slauson and Crenshaw. Mr. Holder, as it turns out, also was an aspiring rapper, but not nearly as successful as Mr. Astrodome or Nipsey Hussle. This case involves the shooting and killing of Mr. Astrodome and the shooting and injuries to two other individuals, Carrie Lathan and Shermy Venezuela, that occurred on the afternoon of Sunday, March 31st, 2019. Mr. Hussle, Mr. Astrodome, and I'll probably go back and forth between calling him Nipsey and Mr. Hussle and Mr. Astrodome, all the same person. I'm gonna just say Nipsey because I don't want to like keep butchering nobody's name. So just know I'm saying Nipsey. So, made an unannounced appearance at a strip mall at the intersection of Slauson and Crenshaw. That place was a place that in his younger years, he spent a lot of time doing activities that weren't necessarily lawful activities. But in his later years, as he became successful and ended up buying that property, so he and his brother owned and operate most of the businesses at that property. You'll hear a little bit about some of the businesses that operated at that property. The main businesses being a store called the Marathon Store, where he sold a lot of his own merchandise. So on Sunday the 31st, he showed up unannounced. He got there a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He got out his vehicle and started greeting people in the parking lot, and he stayed in the parking lot for the entire time he was there, up until the time he was shot. During that time, he signed autographs, he took pictures with fans, he talked to some of his friends. Some of them were also fellow Rolling 60s gang members, and really nothing unusual or eventful occurred. Mr. Holder showed up. Mr. Holder showed up apparently not knowing that Mr. Hussle was going to be there that day, just a chance encounter. He arrived at the parking lot from another city. He was being driven by a person who we will call witness number 1 in this case. Mr. Holder got out of the car, immediately walked up to the group where Mr. Hussle was, and they had a conversation. That conversation is important because that conversation had something to do with Nipsey accusing Mr. Holder of snitching, which in the gang world is a very serious offense. During the course of the hearing today, we'll try and elect as much information from witnesses who were present in that conversation as we can. But apparently the conversation has something to do with Nipsey telling Mr. Holder that the word on the street was that Mr. Holder was snitching. The conversation wasn't particularly intense, it wasn't particularly belligerent, and it lasted for about 4 minutes. Mr. Holder eventually got some food and got in his car with witness number 1, and they drove off. After they drove off, Mr. Holder pulled out a gun, told witness number 1 to drive around the block. Witness number 1 drove Mr. Holder around the block, also told him to put the gun away. She was concerned that he might shoot her accidentally or shoot somebody from her car. He then told her to pull over at a certain location near the strip mall. He put on a shirt. He had been shirtless. He put on a shirt and he told her to wait there. He'll be right back. She didn't necessarily know where he was going. He walked off back toward the parking lot, where he then walked up to within a couple of feet of Nipsey and fired multiple rounds into him from 2 different guns. One gun was a semi-automatic handgun, which leaves casings at the scene typically when it's fired. And the other gun was a revolver, which does not leave any evidence of shooting other than the bullets that expel from the gun. After firing multiple rounds, Mr. Holder ran back to witness number 1's car, jumped in the car, instructed her to drive away. She asked what happened. He told her to drive, otherwise he would slap her. She was confused. She didn't know if he had done a shooting because she heard shots. She didn't know if he had been shot or what was going on. Witness number 1 attempted to get information from him, but he couldn't answer any questions. She drove him off back to the area where he lived and dropped him off. At that night, he called and asked if he could stay at her place. She allowed him to stay at her place, according to her, still not knowing that he was responsible for the shooting that occurred at 3420 Slauson Avenue. The next morning, he asked if he could help him get a room at a motel. She did so still, according to her, not knowing that he was responsible for the shooting. 2 days after the shooting, she turned herself in to the Los Angeles Police Department. She submitted to a 5-hour interview. She allowed investigators to search her car, her phone, her home, her mother's home, and she cooperated with the investigation in every way that she has been asked then. Investigators went out and served a search warrant on the target's home and a relative's home, but did not find the guns that were used in the shooting. So that essentially is the basic outline of the fact of what happened. You'll get a lot more detailed information from the witnesses when they testify. A couple of things I want you to be aware of. Witness number 1 and another victim, Carrie Lathan, were both given use immunity for their testimony today. Use immunity is a promise from the district attorney that we will not seek to prosecute victim Carrie Lathan or witness number 1 for anything that those witnesses say during their testimony here today. The reason we give immunity, there are 2 primary reasons. One, it eliminates any Fifth Amendment claim that a witness might have. No witness has asserted that right up to this point, but we grant it if there is any possibility of it. We will also grant it because it's free the witness up to tell the truth, knowing nothing they say here can be used against them in a prosecution. So there's no reason for them to not tell the truth. Also in the agreement, it is the provision that if they lie here, they will be prosecuted for perjury. So the agreement does not immunize them against false statements or perjury before use. It just immunizes them from any outside prosecution from what they say here. So we will explore what both of those witnesses, what they saw, what they heard, what they thought, what they felt, and also what they may have told investigators on prior occasions. The reasons we are calling witness number one, witness one, I was wondering that. Instead, by her real name is out of concern for her safety. There has been a number of threats that have been made on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram against the quote unquote driver. There are a lot of people who have posted things online that have been assumed that the driver was a part of the crime, that the driver had the knowledge and intent and was a co-participant in the crime. The driver has not been charged with any crime, but out of concern that if her true identity were known, she would be subject to all kinds of threats, harassments, maybe even violence. We have decided to call her witness number one here. We obviously know who she is, and if this case goes beyond this process, the defense will be given her full name and all other identifying information they need to conduct their own investigation, if they choose to. You're going to see some video, and you're going to see some video over and over again, because different witnesses have different perspectives and can shed light on the video in different ways. A video was taken. This is the shopping center at 3420 Slauson. This is where, let's see if I can. So this is where the shooting occurred. Most of what you're going to be focused on happened here in this area, near the entrance to the Marathon store, which is located here. Essentially, what the evidence will show is that Nipsey arrived, parked his car in this area in the front of what we will fish restaurant. He got out of the car and spent all of his time in this area right near the entrance to his store. A few minutes after he got out of the car, witness one and Holder arrived off of Slauson, pulled into a very crowded parking lot. The driver stopped here. Holder got out and went into the restaurant called Master Burger to get some food, and witness one says that was the reason they went to the area in the first place. He told her, hey, I want to get something to eat. Pull in here. When she pulled in, she immediately saw Nipsey and recognized him. She didn't know him personally, but she was a fan and she recognized him, and she said out loud, hey, there goes Nipsey. Holder had no response when she said that. He didn't say, oh, I know him or anything like that. Gave no indication that he had any idea who he was. After Holder ordered food, he walked directly from the Master Burger over to the group of men where Nipsey was and engaged in a conversation there. We have a person here today who was there during that entire conversation and will relate to you what he heard being said. Witness number one saw Holder walk over to this group, and she thought, oh, well, if he's going over to take a picture, thinking that's why he went there. She thought, well, I want to get a picture with him too. So she got out of her car, walked over to the group, and asked if she could take a picture with Nipsey Hussle. While she was standing there, she heard a fragment of the conversation, and she heard Holder calling Hussle cuz. She kept hearing him referring him to as cuz, which is a common way that the rolling 60s talk to each other. Cousin. It's short for cousin. She also said she heard Holder say nothing about snitching. She heard him say to Nipsey something to the effect of, so you never snitched, or haven't you snitched? She said she didn't know what the conversation was about. She just wanted a picture. Nipsey Hussle paused the conversation, took a picture with her, so witness number one drops down in that familiar selfie pose and takes a picture. She was excited. She ran back to her car. She sat in the car while Holder remained in the group. While sitting in her car, she immediately posts that picture on social media. Look at me, I'm with Nipsey Hussle. She was happy. She was excited. Meanwhile, Holder and Nipsey Hussle engaged in what looks like, a serious conversation. Obviously, there was no sound in the video, but it looks intense, I would say. After that conversation, Holder walks back to the burger restaurant. He then walks out to the car where witness number one is. He gets money, because he doesn't have enough money to pay for his food. He then goes back in. He gets food and then he walks back to the group another time. He shakes a couple hands, gets in the car, and they leave. And they leave out of this lot and they drive around the corner. They drive according to witness number 1. Holder wants to go around the block. So she drives around the block. They pass again. This time they pull into the gas station and around to where there's a Master Burger restaurant where he says he wants to eat his food. So he had ordered some chili fries from the restaurant. She said at this point she stopped. She started eating his food. He started eating his food. She let him. She put on his shirt and she had seen a gun for the first time. When they were driving around the block, he pulled out a gun. He started manipulating the gun, and it's a gun she had seen him with before. She knew him for about a month. She met him back in February of 2019, February 25th, I believe. And they started this sort of, I don't know, modern dating where they were hanging out, I guess, you know. They saw each other, according to her, like every other day. She wouldn't call him her boyfriend. He wouldn't call her his girlfriend. But it sounds like it was a dating relationship. They had sex at least one time during their relationship, but it didn't sound like it was a long relationship or an extensive relationship. But during that period, she had been with him but during that time period, she had seen him with multiple guns. He claimed he needed them for protection. She obviously had an opportunity to see his body, particularly his upper body, which is covered in tattoos, including Rolling 60s gang tattoos, which she would have had an opportunity to see. But according to her, she didn't know much about gangs. She didn't know much about the Rolling 60s. Didn't know much about this area of Los Angeles, and she is not from here. She is a 30-something-year-old woman. She has no criminal history whatsoever. She is gainfully employed. She has some college. She has no known gang association or ties. So that's who witness number 1 is. So and I think they did this, I don't mean to cut in, but I think they did this because like previously, they wanted people to understand why they're referring to her as witness number 1. So for some odd reason, when my film did not have enough storage, it deleted the last 3 paragraphs. So I'm gonna read those real quick and then you'll jump into the second to the last paragraph and then we'll go on to the next position in this transcript. So she said after she stopped to let him eat his food, he put on a shirt and he walked away. He said, "Don't move, I'll be right back." According to her, she didn't know where he was going or what he was going to do. He walked off in the direction back through this alley towards the parking lot. And from where she was, she could not see into the parking lot. But she saw him walk down this alley. She saw him place his food container on the top, on the hood of a car, and continued walking. A few moments later, she heard gunshots. She heard 2 shots. After hearing 2 shots, she saw people running. Holder had, in that time period, walked between 2 parked cars in front of the store. In between those 2 cars was Mr. Ashton, aka Nipsey Hussle. He was talking to Mr. Lathan. Immediately behind them was Sherry and another gentleman who will be called. When he opened fire, fired multiple shots. Nipsey and Mr. Lathan immediately both fell to the ground. Mr. Benuela was struck in the abdomen but managed to get away from the gunfire. Mr. Holder was firing with 2 different handguns, trading between his right and his left hand, and then he made his way out of the alley, back to the car, which then took off. As I said, this was all captured by several cameras that will be discussed. Keep in mind that at times on the camera are not accurate. Camera 6, for example, will be 67 minutes off. So I will be referring to the times re-imprinted on the camera. But that time won't be actual time of events. And we'll have witnesses come into testimony whether the cameras were faster or slower, and the camera from the 58th place. Forgetting because I'm not sure if my camera picked it up. It was saying it was full, so I had to delete some memory card. So I'm just going to read this last paragraph again. So that's it. We're ready to get started. If you are, I thank you for your time and your attention. At the end, we're going to ask you to consider 6 criminal counts, 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 lesser related counts of assault with a firearm. Those 2 counts are related to 2 attempted murders, and I'll explain that more when we get to the closing statement of why we did that and what we're asking you to find there. And then 1 count of felony in possession of a firearm. Thank you. Miss Anil, thank you. Sorry, I had to make sure. So I'm gonna read a little bit more. I feel like this is gonna be long, so I hope you guys are liking it. Try my best. If you have any other ways for me to read it, I can do it without me being on the screen if you don't want to see me. But I didn't want to jock anyone's style. I like to do my own thing. So let's keep going. So the grand juries are admonished and advised that the foreperson statement as well as the opening statement by Mr. McKinley are not evidence and are not to be considered as evidence. And Mr. McKinley, at this time, would you request of the foreperson that your exhibits 1 through 42 be marked? Mr. McKinley, yes. Miss Anil, Madam Foreperson, so marked. The foreperson, so marked. Miss Anil, thank you. I feel like I just repeated myself. For identification, exhibits 1 through 41. Miss Anil, your first witness. Mr. McKinley, the people call Mr. Alejandro Guerrero. Miss Anil, and Mr. Sergeant at Arms, if you would please call Mr. Alejandro. The witness enters the grand jury hearing room. Miss Anil, sir, if you'll stand next to that flag, you're gonna raise your right hand and you're gonna face the foreperson right there, and she's gonna swear you in. Alejandro, called as a witness before the grand jury of the County of Los Angeles, was sworn and testified as follows. The foreperson, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give in this matter now pending before the grand jury of the County of Los Angeles shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? The witness, yes, I do. Miss Anil, thank you so much. Go ahead and take that seat. Good morning. The witness, good morning. Miss Anil, can you adjust the microphone? You can pull it towards you so you can speak directly into the microphone. Okay. Did you leave your cell phone outside? The witness, yes. Miss Anil, do you have any recording devices on you? The witness, no. Miss Anil, please tell us your full name and then spell your full name for the record. I'm gonna skip that part, but you guys can see it. Okay, examination by Mr. McKinley. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Please tell us your occupation. Good morning. Police officer for the Los Angeles Police Department. How long have you been a police officer? I have been a police officer approximately 5 years. What was your assignment on March 31st, 2019? I was working 77th Division Patrol. Were you working alone or with someone? I was working with someone, my partner, Officer Yerpes. Were you the driver or the passenger officer? I was the driver officer. Miss Anil, can you spell your partner's name, please? The witness, it's Yepes, spelled Y-E-P-E-Z. Miss Anil, first name, the witness, it's Renaldo. It's R-E-Y-N-A-L-D-O. Miss Anil, thank you so much. Go ahead. By Mr. McKinley. Did you or your partner go to the area of 3420 Slauson Avenue? Yes. Approximately what time did you go to that area on that day? We received a radio call of a shooting. It was approximately at 1520 hours. 1520 is what time? 3:20 in the afternoon. Okay. You went to that area because you got a call of a shooting? Yes, sir. Looking. Calling for attention to grand jury exhibit number 4. Miss Anil and Madam Foreperson. If you could please raise the monitor for the witness. Perfect. By Mr. McKinley. Do you recognize the area shown on this exhibit? Yes, sir. How do you recognize it? That's the location where the shooting occurred. Is that area you went to that afternoon? Yes, sir. It's 3420 West Slauson Avenue. And tell us what you saw when you first arrived. So we were the primary unit that received the ADW shooting call. So we were, I don't know if it's like you want a pointer? Yeah. Can I get a pointer? Okay. Now you don't have to point this at the screen. Okay. So top, bottom, just hold it. No, the other way. Sorry. So press it and then you'll figure out how to use it. Okay. So we were the first unit responding on scene. So right there where I'm pointing at, that's where we initially parked. Me and my partner exit our vehicles. You hit a different button, sorry. We exit our vehicles and we walked in that direction, like right there. And we initially saw 3 victims of a shooting. We tried to get Miss Anil. I'm sorry, officer, if you could just tell us what you saw. The witness, okay. Miss Anil, You're saying we, the royal we, but if you could just testify as to what you saw, the witness. Okay, so right there, I exit my vehicle. As I walked in that direction, I saw 3 people that were struck by gunshots. After I noticed that, the 3 victims, we called for paramedics to get there on scene, and I advised my partner to try to get witness statements, and I requested additional units pretty much too close down the crime scene and close traffic. By Mr. McKinley. These some intense attorneys. Okay, let me show you another exhibit. This will be grand jury exhibit number 6. Do you recognize this person standing there in the pink shirt? There's also an inset photo identifying him as Shermy. Do you see that person there that day? Yes, he was one of the victims that got hit. Is this photo the larger photo, a photo from the scene? Yes, sir. And let me show you another exhibit. This is grand jury exhibit number 7. Do you recognize what's shown in this exhibit? Yes, that is initially when I spoke to him and asked him if he had been struck. Okay, that's the same person then from the previous exhibit in, yes, sir. In the pink shirt, yes. Now my question is, did you see him that day? At scene, yes. Did you talk to him briefly? Just briefly. And did he, which was, like I mentioned, I just asked him if he had been struck by gunfire, and that was it. Okay, and after you asked him that question, did he show you these injuries? Yes. Okay, did he mention anything to you about a bullet or the bullet that struck him? Do you recall? I don't remember. All right, how long were you at the scene that day? I was there a few hours. Did you see any other obvious victims? From the initial 3 victims that I saw, nobody else. Let me go back to the grand jury exhibit 4. Other than the man in the pink shirt, did you see any other people who appeared to be injured? 2 other victims. Okay, where were they? The man in the pink shirt, he was at the middle. So I want to say just west of him. The person next to him, victim number 1, he was lying on the ground, and on the other side of the man with the pink shirt, there was another victim on the ground, and he appeared to be struck too. Okay, and were they in the area where I put the cursor? Yes. Did you talk to them at all? It was just brief. I spoke to 2 of the victims and pretty much asked them where did he get hit and just letting them know what the paramedics were already en route. Okay, you said you spoke to 2 victims, so that one would be the man in the pink shirt, correct? Yes. And the other 2, did you know one of those 2 individuals prior to that day? I recognized him. Okay, who was he? Of the 2 men, which one did you speak to? It was the one on the left. I didn't get his name, but he was facing down and appeared to be struck in the back, like in the lower back. So I just asked him where did he get hit, and that's when he told me like in the lower back. And like I said, I told him that the paramedics were en route. The 3rd victim, then the person that you have heard of was Nipsey Hussle, correct? Yes, sir. Did he appear to be the most seriously injured? Yes, sir. Did you talk to him at all? From when I got there? No. When you got there, were there people around him appearing to try to resuscitate him or provide first aid? Yes, sir. All right, thank you. Mr. McKinley, no further questions. Mr. Neal, can you please put on the record where your cursor is? Mr. McKinley. Mr. McKinley, yes, the cursor is, based on the last question, positioned about 2 car lengths from the front door of the Marathon store toward in front of what labels as the tax and insurance business. Mr. Neal, and if you're counting there are 2 rows of cars. If you're counting the top row from left to right, it's right at the back of car number 7. Is that correct? Mr. McKinley, yes. Mr. Neal, officer, you said that you entered and you said right there. Right there. Did you mean that you entered the facility off of Slauson? The witness, yes, Mr. Neal, and the witness. So we entered off Slauson and we parked our vehicle right there, Mr. Neal. And right there is just right in you're probably about 2 car lengths in, and your cursor indicating where you were is next to a white car. Is that correct? Actually, in between 2 white colored cars, the witness. Yes, like in the initial driveway, Mr. Neal. Okay. The witness of the parking lot. Miss Anil, thank you. Any additional questions, Mr. McKinley? No. Miss Anil. Grand juries, if you have a question for the witness, please raise your hand so the sergeant at arms can collect it. I'm going to end there because my throat is killing me. But this case is going to be so good. I'm so excited because I'm reading this with you guys, and I would love to know what you think. Let me know if you want more. I'm really interested in it. I think it would be great and dope to read it along with you guys. So as my being back and as we're in Vlogmas, I plan to only do like 15 days. So if you want, this will definitely take me 15 damn days. So if you want me to, I will continue. I think I'll continue anyway, even if you don't. But let me know if you want me to do any other cases like this. Maybe I'll set up a day, kind of throw it in the bunch thing, you know, especially because we're in Vlogmas. I feel like, you know, I want to spruce it up. So if I can do more cases like this, you know, I don't mind doing it because we get all the information in these cases. So guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, it's so sad reading this story because, you know, as a fan, you know, when you love an artist and you're like, damn, they had so much more to do. And you're just like, oh, love me some Nipsey Hussle, y'all. But that's today's video. Hope you guys are doing well, staying safe, washing your hands, and just doing all that we can do. So guys, until the next video, I'll see you. You might see me tomorrow. So, bye guys.